Mark, how are you feeling today?
Well, it's a Friday evening, late in the afternoon. I mean, we have survived another week now.
We did.
Exactly. But so far, so good. We cannot argue about that.
Very nice to hear. Mark, tonight you have a wine tasting event for your
yes.
employees.
Exactly. Actually, we have a supplier, a Chilean supplier,
Okay.
who's in Malta. And we thought, why not we do something even for our employees, especially for those one who are selling the product. So having the person himself here who's going to give you all that information. At the same time, it's a Friday evening. We are situated here in Taali. We're in front of the National Garden Center here. So, it's
Okay.
the best place, the best thing to chill in a Friday evening. So we thought it would be a good idea to do so.
Very nice. And you organize quite a lot of events for the employees as well. How how um, how does it impact the retention of the employees?
I would dare to say that it leaves a very good impression on our employees, given that some of these events are being recommended by the people themselves.
Okay.
For instance, we have just mentioned the rooftop. We have a lot of employees who tell us, listen, we would prefer to have it here. First and foremost, we have no problems whatsoever when it comes to parking,
Yeah.
The air is practically here. It's exclusive for us in the sense that there are no people around us, no houses, other commercial activities going on. So people come here. In the summer, it's not surprise if we'll see some festas, some
Okay.
fireworks.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it would be the ideal scenario for us.
Very nice, very nice. I mean, as we discussed last time we met, we organized quite a number of events for our employees as well, and many look forward to them because it's that event that connects everyone together. Sometimes
Yes.
when you're working in different sections and you work in distribution, some of the employees never meet other than during these events. So it's important to connect socially as well at the
Yes.
place of work. So
Especially when the company keeps growing. Nowadays, we're over 200 people. And I would describe our company in three different pillars. We have the admin personnel, we have the sales and marketing personnel, and then we have the warehouse and the operations personnel. So we have a lot of frontliners. I would dare to call them frontliners. We have just passed by the COVID.
Yeah.
We mentioned the frontliners being the police, the nurses at the
Yeah.
hospital, etc., etc. But even our people, the sales people and the delivery persons, they were the frontliners, but because ultimately, we had to eat, we had to
Yeah.
distribute food in supermarkets, etc., etc. So a lot of frontliners are being out there. So the moment that we organize something like this, and then they can have that some sort of special time, quality time together,
Mhm.
they can get to know more each other, and that will bring them more together. There will be some sort of a bond, so it helps a lot. Even if you're going to do a call, I mean, I know Daniel by
Yes, yes.
in person now, so I know the person who is the characteristics whatsoever, but it helps a lot. It breaks that barrier.
Yes, it does. It's nice to put a face to a name.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
especially internally, if you're working
True.
together, it's very important.
True.
Mark, you are now a seasoned HR professional, but this is not where you started from. You started in shipping, right?
Exactly.
What's the story behind that?
Some time long ago now, I finished my A-levels. At that time, I decided not to go to university, etc., and I thought to start working. I had a very good friend of mine who recommended me freight forwarding. I had no idea. I didn't even know that Tetra had 8 tires, to
All
tell
right.
you the truth. But when I started working the freight forward, it was about 2000, in near September 2000.
Okay.
I joined a company, one of the three of the oldest companies here in Malta, Cassar and Cooper, and it was a beautiful journey. Indeed, I really enjoyed every minute of it. I met a lot of people. I had a lot of challenges because, you finish from school, you start from scratch, and I had a lot of responsibility at the end of the day because freight forward, and you have to take care that there are no demurrages, you don't incur extra costs. If there are goods which had to be shipped, they had to be shipped in time. You have to notify the clients. So I had a lot of first contact with a lot of people,
Yeah.
and that helped me a lot. And I spent about 8 to 9 years in the freight forwarding until This is a family business. I got to know Daniela, who's nowadays my wife, who works here at Nectar. It's their family business, you know. And one day, her late father, Charles Abera, and her eldest brother, Roderick, told me, listen, I want to have a discussion with you. I told them, well, why not? I thought they wanted some sort of advice whatsoever when it comes to freight forwarding, and they told me, listen, you know what? We want you to join our company and be our first HR person. And that moment, I said, you're joking, eh? I mean, how come you're going to ask me to start something from scratch and I don't have nothing whatsoever in terms of expertise, technicalities, etc., etc. But I remember my late father-in-law told me, look, you have the best thing. You're a people's person. You know how to bring people on board. You know how to bring people and you start a discussion, a conversation. That's already a very good starting point. This was way back in 2008 then. And at that time, Nectar was about 60 people. And the company was planning another growth. So HR for the company was something which was important to start from scratch, to start the setting of an HR department. And by the time I said, listen, why not? I started doing my research, I started to do some sort of little networks, etc., etc. Then I got to know some people. For instance, I went for a course with the Malta Employers Association. And during that course, we had about 20 sessions organized between 20 different professionals. And one of those persons was Joseph Said.
Okay.
And I got to know Joseph Said sort of in person, and he encouraged me to make this move. And if I had to look back, I would dare to say that I'm really proud that I made this move. Because nowadays, 15 years down the line, I'm still working here, and I hope that I will remain in this company for a much longer time. Reason being that it's so dynamic. I mean, we're literally against status quo, we're literally against bureaucracy, red tape. We're literally dynamic. I mean, a lot of changes takes place in a nutshell, you know. So basically, there is no day like another one here.
Like, as exciting as it may seem, changing career path, it's not an easy thing. What motivated you to change your career?
That's a good question. I've never thought about that, because even nowadays when I remember about my past, even my previous employers, I'm proud of my background. I really enjoy it and I have fond memories. So if there are other people, maybe at this moment in time, they're listening to this podcast, and they say, listen, I have this opportunity, but I have no whatsoever type of expertise in that area, in that company, I would tell them, listen to your inner circle, you know. If you think that move will be of an excellent opportunity for you, don't just do it for money. Because sometimes when you do it for money, it's something for the short term. And other than that, you will say, this wasn't the right move for me. I mean, yes, nowadays there is job mobility. Nowadays people tend to stay with a company for average 2 to 3 years, not more than that. But we are living in an era where you have the people who were born in the 80s and 70s, even 60s, who are still working. We have people who are working even with us who are born in the 70s. And you have the baby boomers, you have the 2000, and now even late
Gen Zs,
2000. Exactly. So there are a lot of different people who are working this and that, but sometimes you can make a move nowadays even within the same company, and I will tell you why. Let's take Nectar. I work at Nectar. Sort of, it's a traditional old business in the sense that importation distribution has been here for quite a long time, for decades, I would dare to say. But Nectar being a dynamic company, some people might tend to say that, listen, okay, you employ delivery persons. Maybe you have 2 or 3 people who work behind the scenes in the warehouse. Maybe you have the sales people, because from the sales people you get the sales orders, etc., etc. And you have 2 or 3 people who take care of the accounts, and it's good to go. The truth is that nowadays, in order not to survive but to be sustainable, to be a quality company, and to look at the long term, we have, apart from the HR people, apart from the usual finance people, etc., etc., a company like ours literally employ full-timers, IT people, including programmers, merchandisers, we have designers, we have marketeers, we have mechanics, we have refrigeration technicians.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of people, a lot of movement going on. It's not just a salesperson, a delivery person, and an accounts clerk.
Yeah.
Because
So the growth journey is varied.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yes, yes.
What I appreciated the most from what when you shared your motivation to change careers, the listening to the gut feeling. And sometimes this, I think it's underrated, not overrated. Sometimes it's underrated because personally I'm at fault of this, because I tend to be logical about it, and you try to weigh things and try to find the things that makes most sense. And sometimes we don't listen enough to our gut feeling,
Yes.
and sometimes a move or a decision just feels right. And there might not be a logical reason for it.
Yeah.
It just feels right.
Well, from my experience, sometimes you have a list and you start ticking the boxes. Well, I can work from home remotely, that's very good. I tick the box. Salary, it's very good. I tick the box. And I have this perk whatsoever, blah, blah, blah. But then again, behind the scenes, being an HR person, there is the culture of an organization. And even when people come here for an interview, and maybe sometimes we do it even on purpose, we leave them to wait those 5 or 10 minutes, because they will see our people passing by, and they will see them talking to each other. They will see different uniforms, so automatically you will say this person doesn't work with this person, but they still talk, they still communicate with each other, they see those smile face, So newcomers coming in here and seeing this type of characteristics, they start understanding behind the scene what is going on, our culture, because culture is not the activity that we're going to do this evening. The culture is how you deal with your people, what are your aims, what you're representing, So all this put together behind the scenes will give a definition of who, in this case, Nectar is, for instance.
Speaking of culture, what, in your opinion, what are the challenges that might hinder the culture or might sort of crack the culture that is already in place?
Sometimes it's mentality. Sometimes it's even technology. And I will give you a short example. People my age, now I'm into early 40s, even others who are a little bit younger than me or older than me, they like to speak face to face, And some months ago I had a particular experience. I was approached by a particular manager and told me, listen, Mike, we have this guy. He was about 18 years old, and he told me, I think you should have a word with him because his performance was this, but now it's this, Told me, well, why not? And I prefer to go in their comfort zone, to speak with them in there. And I went and I met this person, we started talking. I always talk with my people in the first name. It is something part of our culture as well, because even the directors, we speak to each other with the first name. There is no Mr. and Mrs. whatsoever. And I'll hold in, for example, hi Daniel, how are you? How are you feeling today? And then he used to share with me, can I help you with something? So we break the ice, we start a conversation. I see whether he supports a particular team and this and that, etc., etc. But he kept saying, it's okay, it's fine, I have no problem, etc., etc. And I remember this was at the end of his working time, All of a sudden, when we left, and then ultimately, okay then, so everything seems to be pretty good, pretty clear, so we don't have any issues. You're happy? Yes, I am happy. So as long as you're happy, I am happy. Are there any other things which you would love to talk about? Can I help you with something? Because the manager ordered this and that, No, it was just a particular period of time because I had a problem back at home, but now it's all settled. So we're all clear. Yes, we are clear. And it stopped there. 15 minutes after I finished work, he started bombarding me with WhatsApp messages because I would like to speak about this, about this, about this. And at that moment in time, I said, listen, I gave this person all the opportunity in the world to speak. If he wanted to go into my office, somewhere else, to grab a coffee, whatsoever, no problem at all. And he kept insisting that everything was fine. And now, all of a sudden, I'm receiving all these type of text messages. But the thing is that this 18-year-old, he feels more comfortable texting behind the screen and sharing all that information with me when I was on the wrong side, because I thought by facing this person who would have been more open and who would have shared all the information with me. So I had to go see myself into his shoes, and what I did, I started texting him back. Even though I told him, listen, I'm not that good as you as fast, and I don't have all the time in there to keep texting you. Do you mind if we'll meet again? And then yes. But to break the ice, he wanted that we start texting to each other.
Okay.
So when it comes to technology, when it comes to mentality, I, being the HR person, have to adapt to these new upcoming generations. He's not at fault, I am not at fault, but we need to understand each other, and we need to find the middle place where we can talk to each other.
That's very insightful. I never thought of that. I haven't experienced such an instance so far, but that's very good to know, to keep in mind. Sometimes, and that's a very person-centric approach, I would say, because when you, as an HR person myself, when you put the person at the center of every decision, and when you place the other person's, in this case the employee's interest first, you try to accommodate. So we take it upon ourselves to be flexible, to make the necessary arrangements for the other person to feel comfortable in speaking. So, but you actually noticed that this person feels more comfortable in expressing himself via text.
Having an open door policy have its own pros and cons, because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and sometimes you try to plan, but there are a lot of changes going on, a lot of things going on, and every person, especially nowadays, Daniel, regretfully, we're noticing that even from a social point of view, even problems at home, there are a lot of problems, without going into detail, when it comes to education as well, because the biggest tool in the world, it's not the war, it's not the weapons, but for me, the biggest tool is education. We're lacking into education. As a Maltese government, we have one of the biggest budget, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to funds into our schools. Even in recent years, we saw children at a very young age, starting from childcare, everything that is being fully sponsored by the government. We have the primary schools, we have the lyceums, we have the MCAS, up to university. We are very lucky. We don't know this, because if you go in another country, especially if you go to university, people go to do the part-time so that they can pay back the fees of their university. But here in Malta, we are so damn lucky.
It's free.
Which is free up to university, and you can end up with a degree or a master's. But the pity is that we have a lot of school leavers. The pity is that I meet people, young people, they don't even know how to write. And I'm not joking. Maybe people are saying, wow, it could not be possible, we're in 2023. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people, they don't know how to write and even to read. They know how to speak and converse in Maltese, but they have problems when they communicate in English. I mean, it's not a one or a two person, a lot of people. You have the white-collar employees and you have the blue-collar employees. There are even demographics, and sometimes even demographics give you certain impressions, but I don't want to go in that area. But personally, I think that here in Malta, we're making a lot of focus on the white collar employees. I mean, it's very good to have financial hubs, insurance hubs. We have a lot of gaming hubs nowadays, which is very, very good to our economy and leaves a lot of money. It generates a lot of economy, which is very, very good, I would dare to repeat. But then again, there are a lot of other jobs which, unfortunately, we're lacking behind. Case in point, I mentioned that we have refrigeration technicians. I mean, if I quote the salaries which nowadays we provide to a technician, it's almost over 35, 36, 38,000 euros, which is a pretty good salary.
It is.
Even you have people who into a white collar job, an accounts clerk, they
To
don't
arrive
get
at that
that type
yes,
of
yes.
salary, but I think that we have come by whereby we need to review our education system, and we need to put back on the agenda the blue collar jobs. Even when it comes to people who work in the construction area, we're still somewhat old generated mentality, you know. But then again, when it comes to technicians, when it comes to air conditioner technicians, people who work a lot of jobs, even when it comes to technicalities.
Yes.
We need a lot of these type of people, but there is this type of mentality. You either do it, you get your A levels, your masters, your degree, which is very good. Otherwise, you failed.
Yes.
Which is not fair.
There is some kind of
Which
shame
is not
about
fair.
it.
Exactly. I have a lot of sales people who don't have any A levels, but they are exceptional, talented people. The way how they can break the ice with a new person they have never met in their own life, they can sell ice to the Iceman, you know, that type of people. So they have a lot to contribute. Being an HR person, I prefer to find the best profile, the best attributes into this type of people, and we try to fit them in that best job for them, because at the end of the day, we want to retain the people, and you're going to retain people by having these people fully engaged, and they feel part of the success story as well.
It's all about the attitudes and the cultural fit most of the time. So when we're interviewing people, I would say that personally I will look out for the attitude the person has, that eagerness to learn and to contribute, or to be part of something at the place of work, and the cultural fit. Aside of the qualifications are nice, obviously, because it gives you a certain type of perspective, I would say. However, even the extracurricular activities, whether you're involved in your community, those all play an important role in forming your identity, because education or academic growth is not the only part, part of growth, or only aspect of growth. It's one out of many aspects, and sometimes if you have the right attitude towards work, that's all it counts. Because when it comes to learning, you can learn anything if you really want to.
True.
So it's the attitude most of the time.
When I speak with my HR colleagues, something which we focus a lot, especially during the first interview, it's about three things: attitude, and attitude. The rest, it is important, but when we dig in, we try to understand the person in front of us. Why did you apply in the first place? Why Nectar? Why should I engage you? You know, these type of questions will help us a lot to better understand the person and see if he's a fit, not just for the job, but
for the company
because
as
of
well.
the culture of the company as well.
And there is a lot of weight in that decision as well. The person applying for the job might be looking for new opportunity, a higher pay rise, for example. A higher pay, not a higher pay rise, really. So the person might be blinded or not be fully aware of certain things, but the person sitting in front of the other person, which might be from HR most of the time, or the director or the general manager, they have to keep in mind that the person is leaving and a particular job, perhaps after a couple of years, they have 2 months or 3 months of notice if they have been long enough with the company. So they will have to wait for 3 months. And then there's the 6 months probation, up to a year if it's a professional role. And there's one year total of waiting and trying to make the person fit. So you have to make sure, you have the responsibility of making sure that the choice that is made is the right one. Because you would waste the company's time and the person's time as well, because everyone has a family at the end of the day. So if you just choose the person out on a whim or without thinking of the potential consequence, you might have to terminate the person on probation, which is very disheartening.
Exactly.
For the company and for the person.
True.
So interviews are very important, and it's nice to know that, or it's nice to have a frank conversation as why are you applying, what are your intentions, and having a frank conversation during an interview.
Sometimes it could be make or break, because even when you look from a return of investment aspect, when it comes to recruitment, the moment that you make a false step and you recruit a person not because he's a fit, but because you cannot find a person,
yes.
So I'm going to take this person, then we'll see what happens. That phase, then we'll see what happens. For me, it's already a problem, you know. So I would dare to say, maybe some managers don't understand it, even though nowadays they are fully on board. They prefer to wait. Yeah. They prefer to keep waiting until the best person comes which can fit into that role. Because let's say we have a group of 30 delivery persons, and then you're going to bring someone, and then we'll see how it goes. That one person would be the issue, which unfortunately, thanks to him, you might lose another 2 or 3 good people.
Yes.
And when you lose a person, normally it's one of the best people, not one of the, I'm not going to use the word the worst people, but one of the best performers or 2 of the best performers will tell you, listen, Mark, we have this issue. I'm sorry, I cannot work in this type of conditions, so I would prefer to resign because I don't want any problems. Other people, maybe they're not the top performers. They will say, listen, I stick with this job. I will get my pay at the end of the day, so I'm good to go. I'm happy with this type of situation. So from an HR point of view, make it very clear. We put this responsibility on us, because the way we work here at Nectar is that once we receive the resume, we give the consensus to our line manager, to the respective line manager, so that he can be part of the screening phase as well. Then we do a short list, but the first round of interview specifically has to be done by an HR person, because attitude, why you want to join Nectar, we want to better understand what is your background, what are your intentions, how can Nectar help you to develop your skills, etc., etc. The moment that you are chosen for a second interview, then yes, the line manager will be brought in, because even in terms of technicalities whatsoever, the line manager is the best person. However, the champion of the interview process, the person who's chairing the interviews, has to remain an HR person. And this, we have the go-ahead, even if there is a CEO or another C-suite level, it's the HR who are leading the interviews, because they make a lot of emphasis, they give us the go-ahead, and so we have to make sure that we are dealing in the right and the best way, even due to GDPR whatsoever nowadays, you know. So we want to be professional. For us, the candidates are our clients. We're not a recruitment agency, but we want to make this experience as good as possible. Even, let's say the person was not chosen, we want this person that when he leaves, he say, pity I wasn't chosen. Because even when I was waiting, I saw a lot of smiley faces. There was a lot of positive energy, even the ambience, the facade, the building whatsoever. Even coming in, there's a parking, a lot of trucks, modern ones, even sales reps, vehicles, all wrapped up, everything professional. I want to be part of that company, you know. I want to be an ambassador of that company. So if there is another possibility, if there is another vacancy, sometimes we don't come up with another advert, because we have the second and the third candidate.
Yes.
We do contact those people, and I would say that about 70% they accept
Yeah.
the job literally at that moment that you
Yes.
call them as well.
That process is branding without the capital investment.
Definitely.
So it's part of the branding package,
Yes,
and
yes.
yes, it's it might be underestimated at some point. So, but it's the way we project ourselves. Mark, earlier we mentioned about the people-centric approach and the way we have to position ourselves between the business and the people, and that comes an issue. That might be an issue with boundaries. How do you manage boundaries without keeping yourself at a professional level, without overstepping the personal aspect with the employees?
A lot of people, a lot of sayings, a lot of companies, even on TV, whatsoever, we hear that the business, the company is your family. Nowadays, I have learned that the business, the company, it is not your family, because if something happens, yes, the company, the business is there to help you, but morally, or the family, your blood, they're not in there. They're not with you at the hospital, God forbid, or they're not with you at home, you know. So there is that line, that boundary word that you are talking about, Daniel, and we have to respect that, because at the end of the day, I mean, we have 200 people, which means 200 families, and each family, let's say, is made of at least 2 or 3 people. We're talking about 400, 500, 600
Yes,
people.
yes.
Imagine I'm treating 600 people as my own family.
Yeah.
It cannot sustain, you cannot sustain it, you know. So there is already a natural boundary. There was a time some years ago whereby myself, I had to find assistance. I had to speak to a professional, because I wanted help myself, because there was a time when a lot of people were coming with, I mentioned before, a lot of social aspect problems. You feel pity for these people, you want to help, but again, who am I to do so? I'm not a professional. Yes, we do have the Richmond Foundation initiative. We have find a lot of comfort zone in Richmond Foundation. I know that even our employees, there are their clients in certain cases, but the moment that you start listening, you try to go and understand what they are going through, not just the person in front of you, the rest of the family, even if you have old parents, you know, that feeling, being a father myself, you understand. The worst thing then, when you listen about having an employee who has a child and there are serious health issues, I mean, you feel nothing, obsolete, you know. You would love to do a lot for this person, but you can't. But then again, I had to learn and to understand that I need to move on. At the end of the day, I have to return to home. I have my family, and I have to respect and I have to assist my family as well. So by the time I even realized that even by actively listening to employees, you are already doing a lot. There are moments in time, there was a sales manager, if he's listening to this postcard, he will know how I'm talking about. We're outside here, we're closing the door, because at 6 we close the door. We have sort of that type
rule.
of rule.
Yeah.
By 6, everything is switched off. You're not bound to reply to emails whatsoever. We're closing the door, and this person started telling me, listen, Mark, my mother-in-law is this and that. She's in her last phase of her life, you know. And I was there standing still, listening, and I kept listening, just moving my head as an acknowledgement for about 10 to 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, this person told me, you know what, Mark, I'm really feeling relieved now that you listened to me, but I didn't say a word. But for him, it was the best thing, how he ended up his day, you know. Even for me, I had to go at home with all that information at the back of my mind. But apart from him, I've heard this and that, which is going on, because health issues, I don't know. I mean, even the past couple of years, coupled with, I mentioned the education challenges. When it comes to health issues, there are a lot of health issues. Even when you go in the education system, you find a lot of people who are assisting a lot of children. We have just heard that an incident at one of the secondary schools
Yes, yes.
with a butter knife.
Yes, yes.
You know, I mean, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why all these things are happening?
Yeah.
There are a lot of social problems. Maybe when it comes to education, we need to think twice. What is the best nowadays?
Mhm.
Do we have an agenda which is sort of some backdated now?
Mhm.
A lot of things has to change now to keep up front with all the changes which are going on right now. But for me, that is the type of boundary that I've learned that I have to adopt and that I have to live up with nowadays.
Yeah, yes. And there you mentioned one thing that you had to go home with thoughts and a lot of emotions, and it reminded me of something that throughout the day, throughout the day of work, we hear a lot of these instances. How do you discharge out of this negative emotions or thoughts? What do you do to discharge?
Even if you switch on social media or the big news, BBC, Sky, whatsoever, the negative aspect, the bad feelings are all their headlines.
Yeah.
Sort of, I guess I would dare to say that they get the profits by putting on these negative feelings, you know?
Yeah.
So the moment that you appreciate those even little things, you go home and you find your kids happy. They come in front of me full of health, full of energy. For me, that's a big bonus. And to thank God that we survived another day. I went home, I have good food to eat, there's my family, we're going to spend some time together, and then we'll go to rest, and tomorrow up for a new day.
Mm-hmm.
Sports is really, really important as well to boost energy, so that when you have all these type of negative thoughts going on, you need that adrenaline, you know?
Yes, yes.
So if you go for a long walk or you go to the gym or you do this and that, but you need to find something in which it's not just I'm a Man United supporter and I'm proud of that, but you're just standing still there or sitting on the sofa. Yeah. You're not wasting any sort of energy. So the moment, especially early in the morning, I find it the best thing. You go for a long walk, you know? Yeah. And you go to have a wash, you put on your clothes, and you know that you're going to start a new day, afresh. For me, that's the best thing, how I approach a typical day.
It's sort of you're priming yourself for the day.
Definitely.
Yes,
definitely.
It's important to have these kind of strategies because it's and it doesn't have to be a long vacation. Sometimes,
no,
as you're mentioning, little moments during the day that helps us regain our center of gravity, sort of the little things, and which sometimes pass under the radar. You mentioned, and I appreciated this quite a lot. You mentioned that you take a wash, you put your clothes on, which
simple
is
things.
Very mindful.
Simple things.
So you're mindful that you're dressing yourself, that you're keeping yourself clean. That is mindfulness.
Imagine the moment you or another person, or even a person you don't know, lying in a bed. He can't even wash himself. He can't even help himself to eat. Yeah. So the moment that I'm moving my body or doing whatever I want to, or that I can go for a walk, I can go for a jog, I can go to meet those people, I can go switch my car and I go there and do this and that. I mean, nothing in particular, but these type of little things, the past couple of years, I really started appreciating them. Yeah. Even when it was COVID, the moment that we couldn't meet our loved ones, I mean, there was that distance, you know. Even how come I can tell at that moment in time my kids were very young. Listen, you can't go and see your grandpa or grandma, you know. So these type of silly little things, if I can put it this way, I appreciate them a lot. Yes, nowadays.
Very true.
There was a time when I was younger, when I wanted to this and that, I wanted to own this and that. Nowadays, if you see my social media, if you see my Facebook, I don't put any uploads. I'm not against it. I don't feel any pressure of being lacking behind, you know. But for me, It's living the moment, living the moment with my loved ones. Maybe I should bring on my mobile every time I take photos.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But I would prefer to live the moment. My memories are all in here, you know.
And it's very nice to hear, and it's especially the importance of a good support system. Being it friends, being it family, it's important to have some sort of support system. People who can support us, even not necessarily in difficulty, but people who can support us, give us good energy, positive energy, because we need that to as you said, we're surrounded by negative news. The human brain is wired to think negatively, so it can protect us from any harm. So we are wired to think that way. So it's very nice and relieving to have a good support system, people who can fill us back up with positive energy.
Yes.
Mike, do you have any role models, or you had any role models that inspire you to become the person that you are today, or for the person that you want to become in the future?
I would say that my parents are role models for me. My father, his background, I mean, after the war, etc., my grandfather, there was a lot of challenges. The worst thing was his health, you know. So my father and his 5 other brothers and sisters, they had to leave school beforehand to help their mom whatsoever. So their upbringing wasn't that joyful, you know. So my father made it a point that me and my 2 other brothers, he wanted to give us the best days of our lives when we were younger. And I would dare to say that he succeeded, not 100 but 200%. He was very disciplined. He's a football coach as well. He spent over
that's where the love from Man United stands then.
Yes, he's a Manchester United supporter as well, my father. And discipline is really nice. My father is disciplined, but in a certain way. He will tell me, look, if you do this, these are the repercussions. If you're going to choose this, these are the repercussions. But if you go this way, there are these repercussions. But in life, you have to take a chance. You have to say, listen, it's not going to be 100% guarantee, but you have to take chances, you know. So my father, for me, is definitely a person which I look up to him even nowadays. Another person, definitely Sir Alex Ferguson as well, because another person who came from nothing, he came from a very poor area from Scotland. Even Sir Alex Ferguson mentions a lot his father, who was in the Union at those old days. But for me, even with reading the history of Manchester United, it became an institution during the days of Sir Alex Ferguson. He took over at a time when there were certain players. These certain players, it was a habit, especially in England, that they drink whatsoever, and told them, listen, this player, and this player, big players like Paulins and Kanchelskis, players in the 90s, tell them, please find another club, because you're not part of the culture of what I'm trying to build here. Then he started bringing up a new talent, and he forged them to become a force the United way. And that's why I would say that Manchester United, I mean, it used to be an institution. Maybe nowadays, thanks to Erik ten Hag, it's becoming sort of another institution. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because there is some football strategy, upbringing talent, you know. So for me, those 2 people definitely are 2 of the people which I look up to. Another thing which I really love was one day I read about Ryan Giggs, and he was asked if he was happy about the amount of honors, trophies that he won. Mind, he was still playing football, and he replied back saying, you know what? I'm still playing football, and the moment that I stopped and appreciate what I have won means that it's time that I hang up my boots. So even though he was very, very successful, and you know, at the end of the day, he knows that he is successful, but still, it's not the time to see what I own, what I've won, but I want to win more. when you see these type of players that they
Very
are
driven.
eager
Yes.
to keep on winning, for me that's the best mentality. The moment that you say, look, I'm here, I've reached the top.
Yes.
If you reach the top, if you look at the other side of the mountain,
There's a steep downhill.
there is a huge steep down. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mark, you mentioned quite a couple of people that you look up to, and obviously these have different leadership styles. What are the traits that you've adopted out of these people, out of your father and Sir Ferguson, that you employ when you deal with your HR team here at Nectar?
So first things first, as an HR person, I believe that when you join an organization, first you have to adopt and learn the culture, as we were saying, and the business, and what are the needs. Let's say Nectar. When I was going to join Nectar, it was going to start another growth phase. So I knew beforehand that there will be recruitment, there will be new talent who are going to join the organization. So I had to adopt to that type of business model, because the business, there are a lot of cycles going on. Then there was a time when we wanted to do restructuring, so we had to adapt to the restructuring. There was a period of time when we did consolidation, so we wanted to find who are our best people. We wanted to do and have the methods, the equipment, the software whatsoever to identify this type of people, so we make sure that we always retain our best talent. And then there came another phase when it has to do with growth. If I had to come back to your question, you have to do it the company way, not the other way around. If I had to speak about Nectar, and I have to even say that even my late father-in-law or even the directors, I see a lot of professionality in these type of people, something which I really enjoyed, and a lot of people, even seasoned or people have been with Nectar for a very, very long time. Sometimes, you come angry because there is something wrong, and being a small company, his office wasn't here, just next to me. And you see people coming angry, especially salespeople, with that ego and don't touch my money, my commission whatsoever. And I come into his office, 20 minutes passes by, and they come out laughing whatsoever. So I wanted to understand what you're doing, Charles. I want to understand this because it will help me a lot. But in order to do that, I had to understand the organization, the way it worked. And if there were any sort of repercussions, it's not because I want to be, I wanted to take something out of you, but you were going as a salesperson. Let's take it for example. He's doing something, he's getting something, but thanks to his moves, other people, especially in the warehouse, they had to do a lot of things so they can accommodate this person. For instance, it's the end of the month, you have your targets, then is my client, you ask me 2 boxes of pata crepes, and I will write down 5 boxes so that I can close my target. So the moment that you enter 5 boxes, it will go into our system. The warehouse picker has to pick 5 boxes. It will go into the truck. It will be loaded 5 boxes. The delivery person goes to the client. They unload 5 boxes. And that moment in time, the shop owner say, "Oi, I ordered 2, not 5. Okay, so we have to do a credit note for 3 boxes. Those 3 boxes have to be reloaded in the van. They come back here and they have to put in once again back in the stores. So just for this person to close his target, all these behind the scenes went by, which is wrong, just for the sake for this person. So the moment that we started educating our people, listen, we do this the right way in the first place, then by time that type of culture started adopting itself in the company. Nectar is it's no secret. I mean, everyone knows, especially people who are in the FMCG, especially in our sector when it comes to food and beverages, that Nectar is a professional organization. We believe in discipline, but then what you understand by saying discipline for us, this is that come what may, as long as you have been employed by Nectar, even if you are a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old or a 60-year-old, be it a male or a female, a male or a male, you know, the moment that you have been employed by Nectar, we're going to treat with respect. You're going to be treated as a person, as a senior person. We're going to give you all the information, all the tools, come what may. But the moment that you're outside there, especially once you finish your training, you're an ambassador of our company. So if there's a good thing or a bad thing, or if we receive a phone call, we're going to turn to that person and tell them, listen, we have this type of information, how we're going to go about it, or what is your view, you know? For us, that's discipline, because we're empowering our people.
They're made accountable.
They are being made accountable, exactly. Yeah. So all this, when I did understand this type of information, the way that we deal our people on a one-to-one person, you know, it was much easier for me to start dealing with people.
Okay.
There was a time when I was next to Charles. Then there was a time when I was next to the directors. There was a time when I was next to other sales managers. There was a time when I was next to even delivery people who had a lot of experience, more than me. But the more that I started getting this type of information, the way how we go about it, you know, it helped me a lot. So nowadays, I think that I learned the craft, you know, how when people even come angry, how I deal with them, and I would make sure that once they're going to leave my office, patti chiari, amicizia lunga, they say in Italian, everything is black or white, no gray areas. You know where you stand with me. And one thing which I have learned, don't promise nothing if you can't keep your word. That will be one of the worst things that you can do. So I tell you, I'm going to do my best. I'm not promising you anything. I will see, you know. But then there are times when the person has to help himself as well.
Yes.
For example, in the past 2 years, especially, we saw a lot of people coming demanding for a pay increase, you know. Or in that case, there were instances whereby we said, listen, we want to increase so much, this and that, the whole department, etc., etc. Nowadays, we know where we stand, you know. So if a person comes into my office, listen, Mike, I would like to have an increase. Thanks to the performance review, all the information, the 360 performance, etc., etc. I know exactly who is the person in front of me. If he is one of the best people, then I will see how I can help this person. If this person is a floater or in the red zone area, I will tell him, listen, help me, and I will help you, you know, but you have to do your part. This is where you stand. It's no surprise that you have, because you have a lot of ongoing conversations with your manager. So the moment that I see that you're doing your part, and from here you are going up the ladder, then I will definitely put my face for you. No doubt about that. But I have to put everything in clear. They know where they stand with me, and if I cannot promise them something, or if I'm not going to put my face for them, I will tell them why. And all these things put together helped me how I can regain the trust of my people, and I try to share this information not with my HR colleagues, with all our leadership people as well.
Okay. So if I understood correctly what you're trying to express is that by embracing the ethos of the company and sort of the modus operandi in that case, you polished your leadership style, and it is just the way you operate in terms of leadership. So you adopt this again, the ethos of the company in order for you to manage your...
In a very short nutshell, I adopted myself to the ethos of the company. When I understood them, I wanted to live them. I wanted to walk the talk, you know? So I'm really comfortable with the ethos, with the vision and the mission and the values of the company, because they are part and parcel of who I am, what was my background, from where I came from. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm still working and I'm still representing Nectar, because what I believe are the beliefs of the company. Ultimately, we're a family business. We still stick with family values, you know, and a lot of people appreciate this. So when you're talking, nowadays I'm a 42-year-old, I'm a father myself, as I was saying before. Some people, I treat them not like a father and son, because I have to respect boundaries whatsoever.
Yes.
But I tell them exactly where I stand with them, as a father should do with his son or with his daughter. And with that type of mentality, with that type of approach, I think that we win the trust of our people.
Yes.
Because they know where they stand with us.
And that's
Charles used to say two things to us. Contracts, they are not those ones that you sign. If you give a promise or you said something, you have to stick, come what may, to that commitment that you did. The second one was, what is owned to the employees, we have to give it at all costs to the employees. But what is owned to the company, we have to make sure that everyone is working for the good sake of the company as well. Because without the company, without the business, there are no employees, there is no HR whatsoever. Sometimes people, especially even in HR and even other HR professionals, think that HR is all about perks, it's about giving the best things to your people. That is not just HR. HR is when you see the business, you put the people into the business, and you're going to bring them in alignment, so that put together you're going to achieve the business objective. Because in many cases, especially in Malta, human talent is the biggest asset, you know?
Yes.
So you have to make sure that your asset vis-a-vis your business, they're working in alignment.
On this note, and being part of FHRD, you've audited quite a number of companies in order to achieve the HR quality mark. Generally speaking, what would you say that is the gap in HR? So if you were to generalize, what would be the most thing that companies might lack when it comes to people?
I think sometimes when it comes to strategy.
Okay.
So what's the starting point? A lot of companies have a lot of things going on, but there isn't a strategy. You have a strategy which is made a lot of jigsaw, and you're putting it all together. You have this, you have this, you have this, but there isn't a specific strategy. Sometimes we start even our audits by asking what is the HR strategy, which has to be, as I was saying, in alignment with the business strategy.
Yes.
And a lot of people find it very difficult to answer that question. Sometimes, not sometimes, we tend to say it, as I was saying, people are our biggest asset. Sometimes I find this a bit curious as well, because if they are our biggest asset, how come they are not written black on white on our financial accounts? Are they your assets? When you say an asset, it's as if you own the people, but you don't own them, especially when someone comes to resign. They give their resignation letter, and after the notice period, they are free to go. So is he an asset? So there should be the strategy in place to make sure that the moment they are going to give their resignation, it has to be delayed, because there is job mobility. 2-3 years, and I move on. So part of our strategy, and this is sometimes which we are missing, because we do a lot of perks. Maybe sometimes companies tell you, but I do this, I do that for my beer Fridays, whatsoever. There are a lot of things going on. But at the end of the day, do you think that people stay with you because you're giving them beer Fridays, because you're giving them free pizzas? No. The moment that the people keep believing that they are part of the bigger picture, that's why you need a strategy, the more the possibility to retain those people is there for the taking. And people, especially young ones, they don't want to wait. They started working today, and if possible, within the next one month, they move on. They are really eagerness. So you have to sort of hold their horses. You have to learn to hold their horses. You have to sell them the bigger picture and what you're going to miss if you're going to leave the company. But in order to do so, you have to give them a path. We're going to develop the skill for you. You have to upskill your skills, etc., etc. At the end of the day, with doing this, you're going to get promoted, you're going to get this, this, and that. So we're building this together, you know? And Yes, there are people who believe in job mobility. There are people who are happy to have a lot of organizations written down their CVs. But to be fair, there are other people who prefer to stick to a company, especially when they find that they are really and truly a fit in a company and that company fits in their beliefs, in their values.
Yeah.
There is a lot of longer relationship as well.
Ultimately, there's the element of loyalty as well, not necessarily by staying in that particular job, but if you leave, let's say after 5 years, and you still speak well on your ex-employer, that's still loyalty.
Yes,
And
true.
that's the employees who left the company for whatever reason, might be various reasons, might be to relocation. They are living in a new home. It's far away, and they chose something closer to home. So it might be, in inverted commas, as trivial as that, not because of the job. They are still brand ambassadors as well. And earlier we were speaking about branding.
Yes.
Sometimes these are the things that they require very little capital investment, your financial investment, but they go a long way. It's the word of mouth that we usually hear, especially in Malta, which is very important.
Yes, you know what? Sometimes people resign, sometimes people move elsewhere, sometimes people resign to go to competitors, but we had people who came back, and those were the biggest PR for us. Because sometimes when you have something, you take it for granted. We mentioned those little things which we take for granted, even by having the capability to move your hands.
Yes, yes.
But when you lose something, at that moment in time, you will start realizing what you had in hand and you have just done, you know? So whenever there are people who call us, listen, I made this mistake, I saw that there is that advert, or else even if there are no adverts, is it possible to come back?
Yeah.
Those people, you have won a lot with them, and then the moment that they come back, the moment that they start spreading the word even with their work colleagues, how come you came back?
Yeah.
So what was the difference? Why you came back, you know?
Yes.
That's the biggest PR, employer branding that a company can have.
And some companies
Definitely.
don't accept returning employees as well.
Yes,
because it's they might think that it's an offense to the company that okay, so first they left us and now they want to come back.
It depends.
But it depends on the person as well.
Exactly.
I would say that the person still needs to go to the usual recruitment process and the usual vetting, but ultimately I would tend to agree with there more benefit to loss of the company if there is a returning employee as well.
True.
Mark, thank you for this conversation. I think I've learned a lot from an HR perspective as well. So I appreciate your insights that you've shared with me. Before we conclude, is there anything that you would like to ask me?
Well, rather than to ask you, I wanted to point out first and foremost, excellent job, Daniel. I really enjoyed meeting you. I really enjoyed one small thing.
Yes.
We're talking about the small things.
Yes.
You come by and you go along with your motor.
Yes.
And you go with your motor with all these equipment whatsoever.
Yes.
I really appreciate these type of things. And in people like you, I start thinking, listen, with just a motor, you can do a lot of things. And with just a motor, you went to work, you came to Nectar, you're going to do this and that whatsoever. So, once again, we need to learn to appreciate all these little things. Life is very, very precious. Life is so short. We should appreciate even our loved ones. We need to show that we appreciate. We need to show happiness. We need to bring happiness to the table. It's not just about money. It's not just about having the best or the most beautiful car in the world. Even when it comes to HR, I mean, I strive to give this type of idea to a lot of people. Listen, it's not just the building, which is good. It's not just of having free pizzas or beer Fridays, which is good. By the way, I really enjoy it and I really encourage them.
Yes,
we do them ourselves. We give free ice creams whatsoever and a lot of perks.
Yeah.
But live the moment and don't take decisions. Especially, I'm going to resign because at this moment in time I'm angry. Where so, because I have an issue with my manager, because sometimes people resign because of their
Yes.
managers, not because of the company.
That's very true.
If there is that type of culture whereby you know that you can speak freely, let's say you have an issue with your manager, you can come to us, the HR, or if there is another manager, speak to that manager, and he will be the middle person. Try to find
Yes.
the way. And if there are other opportunities, well, I will be myself saying, listen, you have a great opportunity, go for it. But don't leave a job just for the sake of being angry at that moment in time, you know?
Yeah.
So, thanks to this podcast, first and foremost, once again, I thank you, Daniel. Keep
You're
it
welcome.
up. Excellent initiative. We need people like you. Even you have started from nothing. You're doing whatever it takes to put HR really and truly on the agenda of the top companies, etc., etc. But let's enjoy these little things.
Yes.
It's Friday, weekend is coming. Let's spend them with our friends, with our families, with our loved ones. If we can do something even with our neighbors, even if we don't know them, let's do that little thing.
Yeah, the little
Which
things.
can make a difference, you know? And let's put on site even all these bad agendas, all these bad news, all this negativity whatsoever, because sometimes it's getting there, it goes in here,
It does,
and
it
goes
does.
in here, you know?
Being kind doesn't cost money, so
Definitely,
and it
definitely.
goes a long way. So you might make someone's day with that small gesture.
I have even this saying here: work hard, give your best, you can do this, success is earned, dream big, never give up, focus, do what you love, most importantly, but what you do, stay humble.
Very
Because
nice. Yeah.
when I meet humble people, the most people that I've learned from them, from my walk of life, is from humble people. I mentioned my father, I've mentioned my mother, I mentioned my father-in-law, really humble people, even my brothers-in-law. I mean, if you see them here, our warehouse, they're really busy.
Yeah.
They go, they give a helping hand. If they're really humble. So
Yeah.
when you see these type of people, I cannot imagine myself not being humble. Full stop. You know, if
Yeah.
I have a prima donna, I don't think that Nectar is going to be your fit. You know,
Yeah.
we want a lot of humble people, but in these humble people, we want to put them on as part of our business success. You know, we want to treat them as if they are the best. You know, we want to give them the best. What we can give you, are going to give you, as long as you are humble, as long as you're loyal. We want to give you the red carpet treatment.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
but not by being a prima donna or something.
And there's a lot of growth in that, because if you're humble,
Definitely.
you're leaving yourself open
Exactly.
to grow
Exactly.
further. So that's not a
Exactly.
destination; it's a journey.
That's really, really small. And sometimes, even when people leave the company, I tell them, don't worry, because at a moment in time, our path will bring us together again. We're
So
too small.
Yes, that's true.
Unbelievable. A lot of people that I've met, even, let's say you're going to construct a house and a lot of workers are coming in. I know his father, I know that,
That's
I know
true,
that.
yeah.
Oh my God, you know? So well done, Daniel. Keep
Thank
it
you
up
once
as
again,
well.
Mark. Thank you once again.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot. And nice weekend, by the way.
Same to you. Enjoy the wine tasting.
Thanks a lot. Will do, for sure.